Welcome, 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 everyone. Latest episode of Office Hours. Back again. September. Man, year is kind of flying by here. I feel like the summer went by fast, and now all of a sudden here we are in September. A couple months to go. Getting ready to finish strong here. I want to welcome my friends from LinkedIn streaming there. I'm going to give it a shot. My one Twitch viewer, I apologize that I'm no longer streaming to Twitch. Not really building a big audience there, but yeah, welcome everybody. Office Hours back again. Gonna let you all load in and get on to today's topic, and also to answer your questions that were submitted in advance. Got a lot of questions this month, probably the most I've actually had. So we may start the lightning round early today. Yeah, we'll get to those questions shortly. And yeah, again, today's topic is going to be primarily focused around the work that's necessary to do for your mental game. I think what I've really strived hard to promote, both here in my books, blog, etc., is that ethic of work, right? Because this stuff is not always easy. You read even my material, and yeah, you can have insights and aha moments, but that doesn't necessarily always translate into the resolution and the elimination of the fear and the FOMO and the greed and the anger and all the issues that plague you. And so there's work that has to be required to get done. And so we're going to focus today on some of that work. I'm going to review some of the materials. And that's what we're going to do. And of course, answer your questions live and the ones that were submitted in advance. Hello, welcome, Tropical Trader. Welcome back. Anna Marie, how are you? Michael, absolutely, man. Let's get at it. Dimitri, used to make mistake tilt injecting logic today, or use mistake tilt injecting logic today successfully, as I put the wrong stop in. Well done. That's the kind of work we're talking about. That's the kind of in the moment tools that are necessary to make progress. Luis, how you doing? Tom, good to see you. Leo, welcome. For those that want to check out a blog that I wrote, just go to my Twitter feed, at Jared Tendler on Twitter. I wrote a blog for our good friend here, and it was on the A to C game analysis. So maybe I'll try to link to it here as we review some of the tools. Ali, how are you? Elias, how you doing? All right, everybody. So happy to have another good group here. Always amazed at those who show up in droves to want to participate in all this. So I'm grateful for all of you, and continuing to make this a great experience for me as well. So as I said, today's topic is the tools that you need to get the work done. This is the blog that I wrote, came out a couple weeks ago, and really it was just maybe a bit of a summarization of the material that I put out there. Most of it free. Of course, books and video series are the paid stuff that's here. And yeah, I mean, when we come to, I don't know, there's just a lot out there. I wanted just to make it very clear, what you could be doing on a day-to-day, weekly, monthly basis to ensure that you're making continual progress and just kind of working the system in the way that it needs to. I think I don't believe it was malintent. I don't think it was intended this way, but a lot of trading psychology, golf psychology, poker psychology, a lot of the material. Listen, when I was trying to become a golfer, a lot of the material is very good, but I would categorize it in more of like a stock picking, tippish kind of framework, right? It's good material, but lacks, kind of an overall kind of cohesive plan for how to take those ideas and turn them into raw skill or raw competency that you can be using on a day-to-day basis without a lot of effort, right? And so that's I think the differentiator that I bring is the ability to kind of take those ideas and make them very practical. And the tools and resources to speed your progress day to day is what I just wanted to make sure was very clear for all of you, so you could be doing the work consistently day after day. As I said, a majority of it is free. So we're just going to go over this. And I'm going to go over a couple of examples as we go through here. So mapping your pattern, right? I mean, this is the first step of the system. It's the most important thing, right? And so what can you do? You can use the data collection worksheet, and you can use the profiles that I've created, regardless of which emotional issue you're dealing with. You can map, in great detail that issue. And again, just for clarity, right? You can download all of this for free on my website, right? Just go to jaredtendler.com/worksheets. Okay. And that's where you can find all this stuff. So mapping your pattern, right? Do a good job doing that, and everything gets easier. Do an okay job. Sometimes you got to go through other steps of the system, which is fine, but if you nail this first step and you do a good job getting the majority of your pattern nailed down, everything gets easier, because then it flows right into the mental hand history. And just right, the mental hand history, I've done a whole office hours on this. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it basically is my tool for digging into the roots of the issues, right? Problem is not the fear, the anger, the greed, the confidence issues. Right? That's a signal of the deeper flaws, biases, illusions, etc., that are the real problem that you got to figure out. The mental hand history is my tool for doing that. It's basically just a method of problem solving. The A to C game analysis, we could maybe kind of group this within, the kind of mapping your pattern. It just kind of looks at it from a slightly different angle. But, from an organizational standpoint, I think this is one of the most important things that poker players, traders, listen, I have one of my esports clients. There's actually a video I think going to be coming out pretty soon, which I'll share. Is a guy who's, been successful in one of the top 10 players in the world at times. And he absolutely loves this tool because it organizes his work day to day. He knows exactly what he's working on. He knows exactly what he needs help with, right? He can measure his progress day to day. So, obviously there's less variance in esports than there is in poker and trading, but there certainly is not. It's not like chess. It's more like golf, really, right? There is a luck factor in these games. So, yeah, being able to have a more objective way of measuring your performance day to day, right? The A to C game analysis is a fantastic tool for doing that. And for those of you who struggle being results oriented, do this. Got a bunch of new worksheets that have come out. Perfectionism worksheet being the latest one. Dimitri agrees. So, and I did a blog on it, I think last month. That's when it came out. Man, like I said, time's hard for me to kind of grasp right now. Obviously, office hours, right? Another great tool you can use. And there's now, right, we're up to 16. This is the 16th episode, 15 other ones. There's a lot of content in there. You can go back and review. Now, the coaching questionnaire, if you want to do this, you can go to my website, go to Hire Jared, go to coaching. You don't need to hire me to do the worksheet, to do the questionnaire. You just kind of scroll down here. And right here, download trading questionnaire, poker questionnaire. The reason I mention this is because so many of my clients have talked about how just completing the questionnaire was helpful for them. So you don't even have to become a client, right, to go through that process for yourself. And then, you might gain some insight just from doing that. A, B, it might just help to kind of get you organized for the work that you need to do. All right. And of course, you've got the books, both the poker books and the trading book, but you also got the free intuition ebook. Now, the free intuition ebook does cover things I talk about in the mental game of poker too. So for the poker players out there, you don't need to get the ebook if you've already got that second poker book. But for the traders out there, right, this is really a companion piece to the mental game of trading. It was one of those topics that I wanted to include in the book, but it just really didn't fit anywhere cleanly. And being the perfectionist myself, I wanted it to be, somewhat clean. It makes sense, right? Logical in the order of things. Now, making the most of the mental game of trading, there is two things, right? There's a quick guide. Again, all this is here, right? It's on this worksheet tab, right? You can download all these, right? So you got quick guide for the mental game of trading, and you got the audible companion PDF. So, there's some charts and graphs and some examples of mental hand histories and mapping your pattern that, it's hard when you're going through the audio to kind of see visually. So, and then of course we got the two video courses, the Trading Psychology Masterclass, which there's going to be some interesting tidbits that are going to come out either next month or early November about it, and of course the mental game tune-up for tournament poker. So all of these tools are available to you, and most of them are available to you for free. And the reason I've done that is because I guess it's just important for the ethic of work to be out there. I want to be promoting that, and yeah, I think it's just an easy way to do it. I've heard people ask, would I ever create like a worksheet book, like a workbook? And I've shied away from doing that because I feel like it can be a little bit restrictive. I don't really, frankly, know exactly what I would include in it, other than what I'm already giving away for free. So it feels kind of weird to package all that stuff up and all of a sudden I'll start to charge people. But maybe down the road. I mean, certainly, if you all have ideas of what would be helpful for you, by all means, you can post it in the chat. You can send me an email on the website. Now, I also, to my newsletter list, gave them the option to send me some materials for me to review live on office hours, which I'm going to do now. And yeah, if you're not signed up for my newsletter, again, go to jaredtendler.com, first page, scroll all the way down, sign up to the newsletter. Again, you kind of stay up ahead on all things that's happening in my world, any new, kind of happenings. Like, in fact, actually, I should mention, because it'll happen after office hours next month. There's going to be for the traders out there, something called Blue Sky 5. Investors Business Daily has these meetup groups around the country. There's one in Boston. I mean, my God, the all-star list of traders that are going to be speaking, at this thing is quite significant. So let me go through these worksheets, and then I'll give you some info on Blue Sky 5. You can sign up. It's like $20, and for the value, I mean, it's like a no-brainer to do it. So I'm just kind of scrolling through my feed here. Yeah, I got it here. Yeah. Blue Sky 5, example of things that you'd find out about, on my newsletter first. Certainly, Twitter is a great place to follow me as well, if you're not already. All right. So here is an example of a map of anger that was sent over to me. This formatting comes from the Trading Psychology Masterclass. But if you download the tilt profile from my website, you're going to see this just kind of zoomed in a box right in the middle. It's the exact same thing. Basically, what we're doing is we're trying to map, right, the escalation of, in this case, anger on a scale of 1 to 10, right, where 1 is the most minor amounts of frustration or anger, all the way down to 10 when it's the absolute, when it's the biggest. And really, we're doing that for all emotions, right? That's the best way that you can identify the early warning signs that anger or fear or confidence issues or overconfidence is rising. Emotional system has the power to shut down higher brain function. You know the drill here. You've got to catch this stuff early, and the more clearly you're able to map your pattern, right? Be able to see each level of your anger or other emotions, the easier it will be for you to take action early before things become problematic. So let's just kind of look at the example here and see how our friend did. So this is from a trader. Level 1, after opening the chart platform and seeing big move off the open, I feel frustration and urge to get in because I'm seeing the missed opportunities. I think that it's, again, running without me. So this is kind of from the emotional side, mental side, behavioral actions. Right? And then the other side is kind of the technical changes, right? So what's going to happen to your decision-making process, to your perception of your strategy, your system, the markets, etc. Again, if we're dealing with poker, or any other endeavor, right? Same idea. Like the non-mental game stuff kind of gets categorized over here. The separation right to left is not as essential as it is in terms of each level, but I do think it's helpful because when you are identifying the emotion, right? So the stuff on the left, that gives you the injecting logic statements that you're going to correct. When you identify the stuff on the right, that gives you the decision-making, strategic reminder stuff that you're going to correct. So that's the reason for the division. I see setups everywhere as I see as the risk parameters. I'm looking for trap traders to face the initial move. So I can't really necessarily tell that there's some degrading in their tactical decision making or some perceptual changes, but sounds good. Level 2, when I enter, I am convinced that I got it in the right spot, even though the daily bias seems different to me. I'm just saying it to myself that before the market gets to new territory, it must first make a pullback. So I convince myself I'm in the right direction, and this is going to be a scalp only. I have an idea of the area the market should not get through. Should it go the other way? However, I'm willing to give it more space just in case. Again, hard for me to determine if that's a problem, but I think right out of the gate here, we can see very clearly that there is a difference between level 1 and level 2. So frustration, urge, around the missed opportunity. But now here, there's a little bit of BS climbing into this person's mind as they're kind of trying to convince themselves of something that's not true. Just for time's sake here, I'm going to jump. Level 5, when I see the market back at my entry, I start to feel pressure and frustration saying, not again, please work this time. So obviously they're getting close to getting stopped out. And so what's missing here, right, are the technical changes that occur. We go all the way down to level 9. I cannot see the market structure anymore. I'm just jumping back without any risk parameters, forgetting about any daily bias that I might have established before. So there's a big gaping space here between the two. And so I think in general, what we want to look for is trying to carve that out as best as you can. As soon as my stop is hit, I say to myself, it was only the wrong entry point. The market is still heading in my direction. So again, big BS. And I think from a starting point, right, to have these 5 levels outlined, right, there's a clear sense of progression. That's what we want. There's a clear sense that there's distinct levels. And so, yeah, I think this is a great start. Ideally, we want to see more of these get filled in. But from a first go around, I will just say, well done. So let me look at the next one here. And this is a mental hand history. That's not it. All right. So I can't sit and wait for a high probability setup to appear. Even if one appears, my lack of alertness stops me from executing it timely. Then I start chasing it. Again, this is coming from a trader if you haven't figured it out. All right. Explain why it makes logical sense that you have this problem or why you think, feel, or react this way. If any of you are squirrely around this question, right, definitely go back to the office hours where I talk about the mental hand history, because this is a very, very important question that really kind of fundamentally changes the way a lot of people think about problem-solving mental game issues. So I feel if I miss this opportunity, I won't get another one like this. Let's pay attention to that line for a second here. I'm just going to highlight it because there's a lot of BS in that, right? I start moving in the chair, seeing emotions start hijacking and forcing me to pull the trigger while hesitant because my risk limit is not optimal now. So this is the thing. I mean, the rest of this is really more of a description. So I think what I prefer is to see this second sentence get thrown up into the first description, right? Describe the problem in detail. These are more descriptions of the problem. It's not really describing why it makes logical sense why you have this problem. It's describing what's happening within the problem. I feel if I miss this opportunity, I won't get another one like this. That's the logic. Now, of course, we know it's flawed, which is why step 3 is here. Step 3, why is that flawed? I believe blowing up and burning myself out is the only way to justify myself as a trader. I think I should feel intense. It should feel intense. And it seems wrong to take it slow. I mean, that's intense. So none of that is reflected up here. I mean, if anything, I actually might make this whole thing a new number 1. And the problem is, I believe blowing up and burning myself out is the only way to justify myself as a trader. That's the problem, because that perspective is going to cause a massive amount of issues, right? And so then we want to find, all right, why does it make logical sense, right, that you believe that to be true? That is some deep stuff. Now, I feel I missed this opportunity. I won't get another one like this. That's flawed because we know it's just factually wrong, right? The only reason you wouldn't get another one like this is because you stop trading entirely and you never look at a chart again. Other than that, you're going to have opportunities. All right. So I'm not even going to go through the rest of it. You know, the person I gave this to, right, just go back through and redo this mental hand history from that perspective. All right. Let me end this and share the information on the Blue Sky event just while it's sort of fresh in my mind, and then I'll start getting to questions that were posted. So this is from my Twitter feed, right? If you want more information on this, you want to actually don't go to this link. I posted a new Zoom link up here. Okay, this one works. We've had some issues with registration, but yeah, you just like kind of look at this agenda. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. There we go. I mean, pretty sick list of traders and people that are presenting here. You can see Mark Minervini and I are going to be doing kind of like a fireside chat topic on the psychology to win in the markets and in life. So like I said, for 20 bucks, if you don't see value in this, good luck to you. So, all right, let's get to, let me just see if there's any kind of thoughts here. Melanie, my game changed after reading your book and watching Office Hours. Love to hear it, Melanie. Thanks for sharing. Happy to have you here today. Jared, first time on the live call, started reading your book. Excellent. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome today. Wildcat, how you doing, my friend? I think the hardest part of the system is coming up with a good step 3 of the mental hand history. Yeah, listen, I agree with you. It is the biggest gap between my clients and me, right? Where my expertise is, I think, kind of the greatest relative is step 3. What I will say is that mental game of poker, mental game of trading, both written, it's the kind of the bulk of the problem chapters, right? For poker, it's tilt, fear, motivation, confidence. For trading, it's greed, fear, anger, tilt, confidence, and then discipline. Those chapters were written in a way to help make it easier for you all to come up with a good answer in step 3. And, unfortunately, there are like the atypical cases, right? The things that are not captured in the book. And I mean, there's just kind of a limitation on how much material I could put in there. Truthfully, that's where, the Trading Psychology Masterclass came in. That there was a ton of mental hand histories that were reviewed and examples of flaws that could be, kind of worked through there. So yeah, but at the end of the day, like, you can pull in information from lots of other sources to help you figure out step 3. I'm not the purveyor of all things mental game, right? I mean, I think my system is pretty damn good, but I don't have all the knowledge out there, right? So you can use knowledge from lots of other sources to feed in to help you use within this structure. Anna Marie, thanks for keeping these office hours online. I read your 2 books already. I just need to work on my discipline to only use strong setups. Maybe you could more tips on being disciplined during the trades. Thank you. I would just maybe just reply back yes or no. It's a very, very simple question. Is there emotion affecting you, right? Greed, anger, fear, confidence issues, overconfidence, lack of confidence. Because if that stuff is there, your ability to be more disciplined is going to be a lot more difficult, right? Those things can hijack your ability to do that. And so, yeah, I would just make sure that you can firmly say that I'm not going to say completely solved those issues, but certainly made some progress. If you haven't made progress, then, it's going to be a lot more difficult for the discipline to be there. Shannon's a stud. I agree with you. Any tips to stop overthinking about the past? Good question. So the simple answer is to do a mental hand history about those past pain points, right? You got to extract the learnings and the lessons, but sometimes that can be attained by just asking yourself the question, why am I still holding on to this? What am I holding on to? What do I need to learn, right? We hold on to things in the past because there's really just lessons for us to carry forward that we're not extracting, or there's criticism and pain points that still is, not letting us even look at that to begin with. All right. I'm going to get to, one more. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Yes. Old man now, 44. All right. Questions that came in advance. There's a bunch of them. I'm going to rip through these, and then, yeah, by all means, if you want to post your questions, I will get to them. We're going to spend the majority of the time today doing just that. All right. First question comes from Michael. You mentioned in the tilt chapter of your book that self-criticism isn't necessary for growth. What is the alternative to self-criticism, though? It seems critical to growth for me. So I guess we have to just make sure we're clear on the idea that when I say self-criticism in the book, I mean the kind of harsh, negative, unproductive self-criticism that damages confidence, causes anger, causes more mistakes, and just adds more chaos. That I wouldn't say is critical for growth because of all the destruction that comes along with it. If you're talking about the kind of feedback, the kind of critiquing that you get, right? Like that a good coach would provide to you, then heck yeah. I mean, it's critical for growth. We need feedback to learn. So the question is like, how are you getting feedback? How productive is it? If it's not very productive and it's more destructive than productive, then there's a way to get the benefit without the downside, right? And that's trying to strip away the negativity around the criticism, right? So sometimes you're critical because you think that more mistakes are coming. And so it's your sort of desperate attempt to kind of make sure that that doesn't happen. You could be self-critical because it feels like you failed. And so really there's sort of issues around failure that you've got to deal with. It could be around self-perception because of how others may view you. So there's issue. I mean, again, there's lots of things that can kind of be cleaned up around that. But so if self-criticism is a problem for you, then use the mental hand history breakdown, figure out what it is. If it's not causing any of those problems, then yeah, then it's part of the productive kind of self-reflective process that any great performer, athlete, trader, et cetera, would go through. After completing both your book and masterclass, I'm starting to make progress. Excellent. It wasn't instant because I hit a rut. I hit a bit of a rut because of the summertime lull, and now I'm coming back in full gear. Though through consistency, I'm starting to feel confident again. Any tips for keeping this consistent process going and making it stronger? I mean, I'd say this is maybe a bit of a cyclical solution, right? So I think for any of you who take extended breaks, which I would recommend you do, even on like a weekend break, right? You could do this. The idea is do a bigger cool down at the end of that period. So just prior to the weekend or just prior to your 2-week break, or heading into the summer and it's going to be, a bit more flat, right? Nail down some kind of a review of what you've done in the period, that has followed recently. So the last week, last month, last quarter, right? What have you learned? What are you working on? What's top of mind? What mistakes have you made recently? What things do you want to focus on when you return? What questions, do you want? What things do you want to research? You're basically just trying to consolidate a lot of stuff that you've been holding in your mind on paper, right? Get it out. Now, it does two things. Number one, it will actually allow you to take a better break, which is cool because then that means you're going to rest, recover, and be in a better spot, when you get back. And then when you get back, well, guess what? You don't have to go through the sort of trial and error process that oftentimes comes to figure out all the stuff that you had written down. It's like you can just kind of come back, knock the rust off, get back at it. You could even do some things in the days before you start trading or playing poker again or start competing again, right? To get yourself prepared, right? And so that process is one I think is really, really important. I don't know that actually... yeah, we stick our cat here at night and his automatic feeder just went off. So there we go. Yeah, I'm not saying that you have to go through that. I'm not saying that this is like a kind of an answer to why you fell into a lull. But lulls typically happen because you're just not as conscious or aware of, kind of what your intent is day to day. And so, getting into kind of an ungoal oriented spot is pretty dangerous when you're in competitive environments, especially in poker or trading. So I would look at why you slipped into it. Maybe your mind was kind of getting checked out because it was the summer, but you weren't making a clear choice to make some segmentation. It's like, all right, cool, right? End of May, I'm going to take, time off. I'm still going to be trading. I'm still going to be playing. I'm still working, but at half rate. And so what is my plan during those months? You're just not doing it spontaneously or unconsciously. You're making clear choices about it. I think that will make a significant difference going forward. Your book has been a tremendous help Great. Happy to hear that. My main issue now is patience. Can you briefly talk about how to stay patient and exercises we can do to get better at being patient? So if we're going to focus on this from a clearly discipline-oriented side, right? So kind of the opposite of what I was saying earlier to Anna about her discipline. If you're going to get better at being patient, well, sometimes you just have to practice it, right? I mean, I know some people who will just kind of set time periods where they're going to just kind of focus without making decisions. I mean, you're obviously still playing, still trading or playing poker, whatever you're doing, you're still doing it, but you're purposefully trying to actively slow yourself down. So that can be kind of mentally just reminding yourself what you're doing and why you're doing it. So your mind can kind of get clicked into the purpose of it, right? That this is not patience just for the sake of it. It's patience because there's profitability associated with it, right? This is the right thing according to your system, right? Waiting for the right entries and being more sniper-like rather than just spraying the market with, orders that, are not necessarily going to be as profitable. So kind of having that logic in your mind, right? Keeping your goals kind of top of mind. It's almost like a form of injecting logic, but it's more kind of goal-oriented, more action-oriented, right? And so then anytime you have the impulse to want to jump in, right? Disrupt that momentum, right? Whether it's a deep breath, whether you stand up, whether you do something to disrupt that thought, right? And then use the logic, use the goals to get yourself to adhere to the actions that are important. Right? Over time, you'll build muscle around this. As long as your actions are kind of following what you're looking for, you will become more patient. The other thing you could do actually is something that I do for focus. It's quite a basic kind of thing, right? Kind of see this. So this is like my little chart that I use for tracking my focus when I'm doing tasks like writing. There's a new article series that I'm writing for Betfair. The first two articles have come out. Betfair is an online gambling platform. First two articles have come out. You just go to kind of it's betfair.com/au. Anyway, point is, when I'm writing articles like this, I'm gonna have thoughts that are just completely unrelated. I'm gonna have my focus wane, and so I found that if I set a goal for how much time I'm going to focus, whether it's an hour, 90 minutes, whatever, and then I'm very, very diligent about marking down every single distraction I have, even just to have even have a thought that is like, oh, let's check Twitter, or what am I going to eat tonight? Any thought, not even an action that is out of bounds, just a thought I write down. And over time, what that does is either throughout the day or throughout the week, when I'm kind of prioritizing this, my focus just inherently gets better. Because I'm kind of training out those impulses. So, patience can operate in the same way. Just finished chapter 2 and created an Excel document to map my pattern before, during, and after entering trades. Would you recommend perfecting the map before moving on with the book? No. You're not going to be able to perfect this until you go through many cycles. So perfection is not going to happen at the early stage of this. Go through the book, be more reflective, see what sticks, and revise it. But it's going to take a little bit of time before you nail this thing down perfectly. But once you do, it's not going to change for at least 4 to 6 weeks minimum. All right. Poker question. When deep into a tournament, how do I keep from playing not to lose instead of playing to win? So like anything else, you got to kind of dig in and figure out what's happening in those moments, right? So if I'm going to kind of put on my spidey sense here and try to guess what's going on, when you start to play not to lose, there's probably either fear that you might, which of course in poker is the most likely thing to happen, or there might be some loss of confidence that comes in as you're getting deep and maybe have some expectations. Maybe you get ahead of yourself, and so that kind of weakness in confidence can become what happens there. I mean, playing to win is the default. If you start to slip into playing not to lose, you're basically playing, kind of more defensively minded. Now, that could be somewhat of a strategic thing, right? Maybe it's more difficult for you getting into the late stages of a tournament. And so strategically, whether it be short stack play, whether it be ICM, right? You're just not as skilled in being able to kind of navigate those situations. And that could certainly be the case. And so it's a defensive protection against the weakness, technically. All right, we got 2 more questions here, and then I will get to your questions. Since last year, my trading has been excellent, hitting targets, locking in amazing positions, following my strategy. So I thought it'd be time to take it up a notch and turn to get myself funded. I tried in January 2022 after that 5 failed evaluation challenges, and my trading has been sore since the beginning of the year. Can't remember the last time I took a good trade. What should I do? I would do some pretty good forensics, right? Dig into what the heck is happening with this evaluation challenge. I mean, it's clearly pulled you away from either a kind of a much more pragmatic approach to trading. You've gotten distracted perhaps by leveling up, and maybe that has put either undue pressure on you now that you failed a few times, but early on, maybe it was more of a, I don't want to say a greedy impulse, but perhaps the intent was not as pure as we may suspect. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that that's necessarily a problem. However, you also want to kind of look at like what was happening in the early kind of first couple failures. The 3rd through 5 could very easily just be, kind of the snowball getting worse, right? And you're just not really have any. It's like kind of standing on quicksand, right? You just don't have any ground to stand on, so it's going to be hard for you to survive. But those first 2, I would look really closely at to try to understand what the heck was happening, and then maybe take a little bit of a break, go back to trading as you were, 2021. However, I mean, it also could be market related. I mean, the markets are obviously different now than they were a year plus ago. Your strategy may need to be, updated or evolved. So I wouldn't dismiss that side of this. This may not be all mental. All right. Similar question. My trading strategy is amazing and works very well. However, when it comes to live markets, I can't seem to make a profit or a good trade. So your trading strategy works very well, but your mentality and psychology does not. So first and foremost, right, we got to look at what is generating this extra level of intensity when you're in the live market. And being able to map that, understand that is really key. The most basic example would be that in your mind, you thought that the sim and the live market are the same thing. Like the golfer who thinks the driving range and a tournament is the same thing, or even like a casual round of golf and a tournament is the same thing. And they ain't. They are not the same thing. There's not an equal sign between them. And the difference is because you're different, right? So really, I think what you're dealing with is, a deep dive into your own psychology and psyche and try to understand, what is generating the emotional volatility. There's not enough specifics in here for me to give you any advice other than you've got some work to do to figure out emotionally and mentally what is off. All right. Let's get into your questions. All right. So looks like Constantine around this question, tips for overthinking about the past because it hurts and I regret those events. I lost my discipline and hustle the last few months. Those were my best traits. How can I retrieve them? So look, because it hurts. Okay. Well, so you're going to let that pain be like a bruise on your shoulder. You're just going to allow to be there for the rest of your life, right? It's going to heal over and create scar tissue. No, rip it open, look at it. It's not going to kill you. What it's going to do is allow you to learn, right? And so the regret is likely a lot of self-criticism, a lot of negativity about yourself for having made those decisions or mistakes. And the bottom line is, right, they happened for predictable reasons, right? You probably couldn't have predicted them in advance, but the warning signs were likely there. They may have just been ignored. Or if they weren't there, then you could not, under any circumstances, have not made those decisions, right? That's just part of learning, right? We would never say that an infant learning to walk is making mistakes when they fall. That's just an inherent part of it. But if you're making, mistakes that you quote like knew better, then I promise you that mistakes were not kind of technical or tactical. They were mental and emotional. and you are much more compromised than you realized. And that's really where you got to put your focus and effort, is understanding what was going on then, so that you can actually learn the lessons to carry forward, which might mean that you've got to do a lot more work to really get at the heart of your emotional issues, so you can make some progress and be able to truly get on more solid ground. And yeah, losing discipline and hustle makes sense when you've lost your bearings and you're no longer able to believe that discipline and hustle alone is going to get it done, right? It's not. You're going to have to do some other work outside of your comfort zone to be able to get yourself on the other side here. You are the source for trading psychology. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. What other questions we got here? Can you go back to discipline and doing the difficult, intimidating, important work? Okay. So when it comes to discipline, you have to have clarity on your goals, first and foremost. If you do not have clarity on your goals, what is your discipline weaponized for? What is it directing and aiming you at? You don't want to be disciplined just for the sake of being disciplined. It sucks the life and passion out of your life, or out of trading, or out of poker, or out of whatever. You really only want to be as disciplined as is necessary to achieve your goals. And so you've got to have your goals clear. So we go back to this, and where is she? Oh, other worksheets and examples. Didn't include it. Well, how about that? Didn't include it on this this page, but there's a goals worksheet. There it is. Got it, right at the top. Goals worksheet. Do the goals worksheet. Okay. There's several sections in it, right? Results goals, understanding why those goals matter to you, process goals, and the problems that are likely to get in your way. Right? Go through that, right? That's number one when it comes to discipline. And because then once you're able to do that, the discipline, it basically happens the stronger and more connected you become to your goals. Then your decisions become a lot easier for what you've got to do day to day. Then you've got the power, I think, the strength internally to push yourself to do that difficult, intimidating, hard work, right? You've understood why this matters to you. David Goggins, if you haven't heard that name before, he wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me. Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, overall insanely committed, passionate man. I'm listening to his audiobook right now. I've heard about him for years. He's could be the most mentally strong person in the world. Who knows for sure, but he's definitely in a small category. He talks again and again in his book going through Hell Week for Navy SEALs. I'm not gonna spoil it. It's a great book. But he talks about again and again as he goes through these really hard times, digging into the why, because the mind naturally questions, why am I doing this? Why am I pushing myself so hard? Why do I care? And if you know those answers ahead of time, you're going to face those moments much easier, right? Lose focus, lose discipline, lose patience, get bored. All of the discipline issues, right? Procrastinate can get tighter when you know the why in those moments. You got a choice. Am I going to violate my rules, or am I going to adhere to it? How are you going to adhere to it? Well, your goals and your why help to create that integrity, create the strength there. In your work, you rarely direct a trader to determine a revision in methodology or change altogether because some methodologies don't complement unique trader temperaments and psychology doesn't match. Yeah, listen, I do think that it's important to have your psychology, right? The personality traits that you have be aligned with your trading strategy. But I don't know that that's necessarily always something that you'd want to do rigidly, especially, if you're a trader, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in, where, you're still kind of figuring that out. For the traders that I work with that have, come to me after 10, 15, 20 years of trading, they already know themselves very well. They already know, a kind of fingerprint on the market that, is profitable. But the thing is, right, your personality can change, and I've mentioned the book of the trader who was able to start day trading because his emotional stability got so much better that he was able to handle the emotional volatility of day trading, whereas before he could only swing trade. And so there's certain markets, there's certain symbols, there's certain types of trading, right, that are going to be more characteristic and unique to your unique nature, your unique personality. But then there are going to be some decisions that are made around that are based off of protecting you, kind of working around emotional issues that you have. And so, of course, you don't have to do that work. But if you're going to, then it's invariably going to change, the kind of strategy that you may have, the way in which you apply your strategy. So, yeah, I'm not. And also I'm not a trader, so it's hard for me to just, kind of provide that kind of direction. But I just know that it's important. All right. How do you physically organize your papers, worksheets at your desk? I want to use all these worksheets, but I don't necessarily remember what to use when or how to use them, have them easily accessible. That's a good question. I tend to know what I need at the start of the day. And so I just kind of have like a little stack, look at my A to C game. If I'm doing the kind of focus work that I need, I'll pull that one out. I don't look at my goals every day. I usually look at it at the start of every week. So I've got like kind of a goals task list that I have, and they're just kind of in a pile that I'm able to kind of pull out. But I think traders, as I've seen, they're like up on their wall. They've got some kind of simple sticky notes. Some of them are actually on like an Evernote or using some kind of software as a tool as well. I don't think I've got a great system here, truthfully. Josh, +3 in the driving range. I think I've seen you on the driving range, actually. What do you recommend for random, intermittent, outsized risk-taking outside of strategy rules like self-sabotage? Oh, anybody here know my take on self-sabotage? Anyway, self-sabotage is a BS term, my friend. It implies a level of control that isn't real. Okay, you are not choosing to self-sabotage. It's some emotional issue, some underlying flaw, bias, etc., right, is happening. That is the real problem. You do not have. It's not like you're willfully, consciously choosing to do this, which is what self-sabotage seems to imply. Random, intermittent, outsized risk-taking suggests to me that there's overconfidence here. And so the fact that it feels random would suggest overconfidence also, because for a lot of traders, overconfidence is hard for them to see. And because it's hard to see, then it feels random. So you just got to get better at like spotting the signals and signs that are occurring prior to that decision making that's happening. Can you also speak about FOMO? Why does it limit one's abilities? I don't necessarily know that FOMO limits one's abilities, but I mean, FOMO is kind of two things in my mind, right? It's the pure version of FOMO, right? The fear of missing out goes right to the mental hand history that I was talking about before, where you actually fear that this is the last opportunity that you're going to have. And of course, we know that that's, not based in fact, and yet we feel that way. So the question would be like, why have you convinced yourself that that's true? Now, aside from that, all of the other reasons that traders FOMO into trades, I think, is related to a fear of losing, a fear of making mistakes, a fear of failing, fear of losing confidence, an actual loss of confidence, a fear of anger. There's all these other things that are sort of associated with. And so FOMO kind of becomes this like umbrella term that doesn't really mean a whole lot, other than maybe it's like the beginning of your understanding. And then you've got to take several other steps to properly assess what you are actually fearing, what is actually sparking the emotion. Because sometimes what you think is FOMO is actually just pure anger. It's not fear. You don't fear missing out. You fear getting pissed off that you miss a trade, or you are pissed off that you missed the trade. It's not FOMO. So, all right. Other questions, and we're got about 10 minutes left here. Okay. I do very well as well when I backtest, but even trading live on the sim, I experience anxiety, nervousness, and lack of confidence. So my first guess would be fearing to lose, as it's been going on for 1 year. And although my confidence within my strategy has drastically improved, my mental game barely has, and I'm not seeing consistent results. So the good thing is that you experience anxiety and nervousness and lack of confidence. So that means the sim is going to be a great place for you to dissect your mental game, do the work that I've been prescribing. Here you go. Download it, man. Read the book, right? Trading Psychology Masterclass, right? I mean, something. There's a lot of material here to get you to, right, really get the needle moving within your mental game. But it's clear that the work you've been doing is either just been preparatory, right? You've been gathering up a lot of information, but you haven't gone through the steps to really get at the heart of it. And that's really going to be what you've got to do. David Goggins is the GOAT. Pretty hard to argue with that. Incredible story. Yes, agreed. Yeah, I mean, like, for those that haven't gotten it, I'm not saying you got to go out and listen to it or read it right now, but definitely put it on your list. You Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. You will not regret it, although you might regret how much of a wimp you will feel after reading or hearing this story, because that's certainly how I feel. But humility has never been one that I've been too worried about. All right, where are we at here? What suggestions do you have for somehow imposter syndrome with trading? Right, imposter syndrome was just a confidence issue, right? Let's just simplify it that way. Okay, you have low confidence. Now, the question is, like, where does that low confidence come from? And there's a lot of reasons for it. Actually, go to office hours last month. I interviewed Esther. She was a client of mine who worked through her perfectionistic tendencies, and I can tell you that on day one of when she went into this new job, she was feeling imposter syndrome. And so, you know, she and I talk a lot about the work that she did to get on the other side of that. You also can go and do the perfectionism worksheet that is here, right here, and go through, you know, it's basically pages, I want to say 214 in the mental game of trading, but 10 pages long, all about perfectionism. But, oh man, 70 pages in the mental game of trading on confidence. The poker book, there's maybe 20 to 30 pages, but it's a lot of simplification. But yeah, you're dealing with a confidence issue. That's what you've got to work on. All right, Anne-Marie is back, or Anna-Marie is back with an answer. Thank you very much for your precise answer. We'll write my goals, put in front of my trading desk to remember every time I enter. You're amazing. Thanks for doing this. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Anything besides putting in the work you notice from the traders that have the best results in terms of developing their C game and reaching resolution? I mean, maybe like under the umbrella of doing the work, it would be the diligence and willingness to do all the dirty work, right? Be messy, you know, kind of like what we were talking about with Constantine before, of like, yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful, but don't turn away from that. Lean into it, get into it, because that's where all the good stuff is. It's going to help you gain insight as to what the heck is happening, and ultimately going to feed, you know, the information that you're going to need to be able to get out of it and permanently move it forward. Back at you. If not self-sabotage, could it be fear of success? How can one find the cause of the emotional issue? Mental hand history is that tool, right? So it's going to take some work, right? Going through that is not easy for a lot of people, but that's where a lot of the material is there. Could it be fear of success? Absolutely. But then we got to ask the questions like, what exactly does success represent to you? It's not just being successful. Nobody would fear winning just for the sake of winning. No, you fear what winning or success means. For some of them, it means they fear getting overconfident and cocky and being just an overall dick, right? Because that's what happens to some people. They kind of lose their center. They lose their mind. They go off in another place, and then they have to kind of crash and burn before they get back to being humble again. So it could be that. Could be all the things that come with it, right? More money, more problems. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that kind of come with it that you may not necessarily feel like you're ready for. And maybe you're kind of underestimating how ready you actually are. Why do we compare ourselves to other people? In trading returns in life, comparisons can be positive, but it's mostly negative and destructive. Not necessarily. I mean, comparisons are helpful for self-referencing, right? Especially when you operate in kind of individual environments like poker and trading, golf, right? I mean, how are you referencing where you're at? If you're not getting necessarily, a sense of where others are, you don't necessarily always know what's possible. So yeah, comparisons, I think, become destructive when their standard hovers over you and it feels like an expectation versus trying to peel back the layers of what they've done so you can be more aspirational and learn from them and actually, not stand in their shadow, but, kind of follow their climb up the mountain. All right. So let me get to a couple more questions. My God, they keep coming in. You guys are great, but we're gonna run out of time. And I've got daddy duty, as you all know, coming up here. All right, lightning round. Your book, you mentioned having a lack of confidence will improve by working on your entry setups. Could you please go over this in detail? I mean, this is not like will. I think it could, right? The more you strengthen your system or your understanding of your system, right? 30-second elevator pitch, go. Can you tell me your system? And if the answer is not perfectly, well, then that's what I'm talking about, right? It's a very deep internalization of your system, your strategy, your rules, and your criteria for entry. If you don't have that, like rock solid, I wake you up at 2 a.m, you got 30 seconds, tell me what it is, go. If you can't do that, then that's what I'm talking about with the weakness in confidence. Jared, Don't Feed the Monkey Mind is a great companion to your book. Cool. Great. Always love the recommendations. Thanks for the answer. I've been devoting my free time to your book. No one offers concrete advice and strategy like your book does. There you go. Love it. I recently experienced a lot of tilt. I have all the characteristics of going to full tilt, while at the same time, I am super calm on the outside. Big internal tilter. Okay. Got a few posts here. Let's see what we got. After mapping my anger, at first I found it extremely helpful, but after a recent full tilt, when I lost all logic, I find it hard to avoid continuing down that path. I have to catch and stop it super early because my logic loss is so subtle. Any advice in stopping it early, which seems to be the only time I can stop it. I can be mentally trading really well for a couple of weeks, and then it comes on, and I cannot stop it. So, okay, several things. Number one, you're very likely getting overconfident in those weeks that are going on, and the overconfidence could very, very, very simply be a sense that danger is kind of in the rearview mirror. Number one. Number two, could be the opposite, where your sense of danger is actually increasing because you know that the risk of a blow up is coming. And so there's this subtle escalation of you just kind of waiting for the blow up to happen. Right? I'm not saying you're waiting passively, but you just suspect that it comes. And just that suspicion is actually adding emotion. Number three, accumulated emotion is likely a big part of this equation here, which means emotion that has built up over time around your causes of tilt, which means you've got to go back into some of the bigger pain points in your past to address it then and there, because that's what's going to help to undercut a lot of that buildup that's occurring, right? Because the intensity of the emotion that you're describing suggests, right, that it's not just being created today, it's kind of building up over time, and that's really what you've got to deal with. All right, y'all. Here we are at the end. Let's talk about office hours for next month. All right, October 19th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Topic is being your own coach. Now, why did I do this? It's because of this tweet right here. I honestly was surprised at how much this thing blew up. By far my most engaged tweet. As a professional poker player, trader, etc., you work alone. So not only are you responsible for execution, you're also your manager or coach. This reality is easy to forget, but that role is vital to your success. So commit yourself to being a better manager or coach for yourself. I've talked about this with my clients for years. I really kind of underestimated how important this idea was for you all. And so I just immediately decided to change my theme for October to this. There will be a blog. We're going to talk about it on office hours. So make sure you are there. October 19th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 18:30 UTC. Until then, everybody, I wish you all very well.